Hi, I'm estate planning attorney Michael Redden. Today I want to talk to you about, do you need to update your estate plan when you welcome a new child into the family? Before we get into today's content, if you have any more questions about this after the video, or if you'd like to plan with me, you can schedule a free telephone meeting or a meeting at my office by going to setestatemeeting.com, setestatemeeting.com. You select the date and time, and you can schedule it right there. So, do you need to set up your estate plan and redo it every time that you have a new child? Well, the answer is like a lot of things that you're going to hear from lawyers, right? It depends. Most of the time, when you have a new child, you definitely need to have your estate plan reviewed. We look at it like this, okay? Anytime you have that major life event, someone passes away, you get married, you get divorced, you buy a home, you have another child, maybe even when you have a new grandchild, you should at least look at your estate plan and see if it's time to update it. Now, when you're looking at it, you should look it over yourself and look it over with your attorney, but most of the time, just because you have a new child coming in, for most of our estate plans, we don't need to update them because a lot of times you're going to be looking in that document and it's going to say, hey, leave this over to my kids, but then there's some section that'll say, even though my kids are defined as this one or two children, if I have any more children after this, if they're afterborn or adopted, those are the sections you look for, the afterborn or adopted section. Include those folks in it. And if that's the case, well, that's a good sign you might not need to be updated, but you still want to take a look at it, because if you've done things like provide for children with special needs, or you put everything together in a trust for the kids and you really intended for things to be equal and things like that and how they get the money out, there's something to think about. Because if you pass away, just think about this. If you pass away and a child's young versus a child is graduating high school, that child who's younger is most likely going to be spending a lot more of that money. They're going to need to be raised. There's a lot more of the cost with that, whereas your older child's going to be pretty soon able to manage themselves and just be looking back to this money for major things that happen in their life, whereas that younger child's going to need it for everything, from braces to school clothes to doctor's checkups. If they happen to go to private school tuition, all of those kinds of things will add up. And what you'll find is that if you have that large age disparity between your children, the younger child's going to be getting more of the money. And if that's okay with you, great, then you really have to make a change. But if it's not, then there's some things you need to talk about with your attorney and kind of restructure those kinds of things. Additionally, you should really think about going to get your estate plan updated if you brought this new child in, but you or your spouse do have children from previous marriages. You want to look at those things because state laws, especially state laws in Minnesota and things, really can affect how things are distributed in that regard if you haven't updated that and talked about them properly in your will. The other part about this is anytime you bring a new child into that situation, you have to really think about your time horizons, right? And what your coverages and things are. When you have that new child, your financial advisor is going to have you review your insurance and things of that nature and kind of see how those go. Review your college plans. All those things are going to be there. And why is that another reason to look at your estate plan? Because if your financial objectives change, then maybe that will or that trust don't fit in the same spot. Maybe you intended for it to do this one or two things, but maybe you wanted this 529 plan or something else to do these other things, right? Well, if those things change, now maybe it doesn't fit as well, right? So you want to take those looks at it. But generally speaking, if you have that afterborn or adopted child thing in a child clause in your will or your trust, you might not have to update it, but there's so many different complicated things that can occur and things with family dynamics and different ages. It's usually worth at least a conversation with your estate planning attorney, and a lot of times people will opt to update it anyway because, you really should look at them every 3 to 5 years and maybe update them. So again, if you have any further questions about this, or if you want to plan with me, you can set up a free meeting on the phone or in person. We go to setestatemeeting.com. That's setestatemeeting.com.